So, welcome everybody to Seriepodden, episode number 200, our special international edition. My name is Göran Send, and by my side I have
Christer Larsson.
And we're two Swedish comics fans who do a YouTube series about comics, doing reviews. And for our 200th episode we decided to do an international edition for our international friends who can't watch the Swedish edition and understand what we're saying. They can watch it, but
it's more fun if you hear. You can actually make out what we're saying.
Yeah. So, and the theme for this episode is comics you may not have read but should. And that may sound a bit arrogant, I'll admit that, but that's after all what doing reviews is all about. So, I am going to review Anya's Ghost by Vera Brosgol, and Christer?
I am going to talk about the book American Born Chinese by Jean Luen.
And we'll just jump right into it. I'm going to consult my notes, and this is how you know it's a high class establishment.
That's right, we take notes.
Actually, I'm just cheating and reading Wikipedia. I couldn't even bother to do notes. Anyway, Vera Brosgol, born in the 80s in Moscow, actually, emigrated to America, has won actually an Eisner Award and a Harvey Award for Anya's Ghost. And Anya's Ghost has been dubbed a masterpiece by none other than Neil Gaiman. So who am I to dispute what Neil Gaiman says?
That has to be good.
The book starts, or rather I should add that before she started doing comics, she was in animation and has been doing storyboards and stuff like that. And I am not surprised, because by the time she did this, which was in 2011, she is a very accomplished storyteller. It starts with Anya, who is a Russian immigrant, who lives with her mother and her little brother. And it starts by her mother making Russian food, and Anya doesn't want that because it's too fat, and she thinks she's too fat. She has adopted the American norm that you have to be slim if you're going to be pretty and popular. And she's not pretty and popular. The handsome guy at school waves, and she thinks he waves at him, but he doesn't. He waves at the pretty blonde girl, of course, and they're an item, and Anya is not happy. However, somebody wants to be her friend. A nerdy boy who's an FOB, fresh off the boat.
That's an expression we'll come back to when we talk about my book as well.
Yeah, and who wants that? And she also has another slacker friend whom she goes out and smokes and skips class with. And she goes off on her own and is pretty miserable about that boy who doesn't love her, and she doesn't look where she's going, so she falls down an old well. And not only that, an old well with a skeleton in it. So things aren't starting out well for Anya. She's established as an outsider, but with a solid grounding with her mother and brother. So she's not a total high school, all my life is super miserable. I like that because it keeps it more grounded. Anyway, turns out not only is she trapped in a well with a skeleton, she's also trapped in a well with a skeleton and a ghost. A ghost from a murdered girl, who is, the skeleton is of course her earthly remains. And a finger bone from that dead girl happens to come with Anya when she grabs her stuff and gets to bring with her when she's rescued. And it turns out the ghost can follow her bones. She can't leave far from them. That's why she's been trapped in the well. But she can follow the finger bone. And suddenly Anya has somebody who can help her cheat at tests and get perfect scores, who can give her advice about boys, because that ghost girl is a bit older and has a bit more experience with things like that. And suddenly she's giving Anya a lot of advice. And Anya isn't quite comfortable about that, but the ghost is pushing her. So you're getting a sense that, yeah, maybe everything isn't quite A-okay with this. And Anya starts researching whatever happened to that girl, actually. And she also finds out that the ghost is starting to get stronger and can actually manipulate things. So she starts wondering, was it really me who brought that bone with me, or did? And suddenly it's not a good situation, because the ghost is afraid that Anya's going to return her bone and get rid of her. And it's a brilliant book. Anya is a very credible character. She is solidly grounded in real life. She is in a very solid and well-crafted moral dilemma. And when she gets success, she starts forgetting her old friends. She gets attention from this handsome boy in school. And at a party, she suddenly realizes that, yeah, maybe he's not such a dreamboat after all. And it's not all the drama you'd expect from a high school drama series on TV, but it's handled very intelligently, with Anya going, yeah, maybe this isn't for me after all. I'm just going to take some distance. So she learns during the story, during the process of the story. And she's not a stupid girl who suddenly has a deep revelation, but she's a girl who's not really content with her life and loves stuff and moves on, so to speak. So it's very down to earth, and it's very, very well told. And this is highly recommended. Anya's Ghost by Vera Brosgol.
It's very, very good. It's a very good book, and I think the ghost is also psychologically realistic in a way.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Everybody in it. There's nobody who's a caricature.
Is we talked about the immigrant theme there, and the ghost does this thing. She's the slightly more street smart person who integrates better than Anya in the environment that she's in, both the American environment and the high school environment. Even though she's been trapped in a well for a long time, yeah, she's still shrewder than Anya is. It's very realistic.
So I happened upon that book by chance, and when I saw this, Be Prepared, also by Vera Brosco, I jumped at the opportunity. This is again about a Russian immigrant who's from a poorer family than the rest of the crowd at her school, and she doesn't fit in. And they all go to camp, and they can't afford it. But then her mother needs to go to a job interview, and she dumps Anya and her baby brother. She...
Understandable mistake.
Yeah. So she dumps the protagonist at a camp. Sarah? No, Sarah is another one. I'm sinking here.
Could her name be Vera, actually, the protagonist?
Yes, it is about Vera with some changes, but
I mean, isn't she even called Vera?
Yeah, it could be. I'm not sure. We'll go with Vera.
Let's stick.
Let's go with Vera. Anyway, she hates it there. She doesn't make any friends. Everybody there has been to camp several times, so they're already tightly knit. She's in a tent with two older girls who wear bras, and she doesn't. So they, oh, gross, and they talk about this handsome boy, and she can't do stuff, and they have to go to a loo. That's a wooden bench with a hole in it, and that's absolutely horrible. And she can't do stuff, so she is just waiting. In a week, Mom comes by and I can go home, but she can't go home because Mom has to go out of state.
Right.
So she has to make do. So she realized, I can draw, so I can get friends by that, and she does. But they're just bought friends, so the minute she has some sort of problem, they're gone.
Right.
And finally, she does the adult thing and says, yeah, I'm going to have to live with this situation. And she befriends a little girl who's miserable because her hamster has run away, and she helps her. And doing that, by going outside of herself, she opens up herself to growing and to finally doing things right. And by helping others, she becomes what she wanted to be. And she sees the in crowd fall out over this boy. And she's not involved in that. And she's so relieved because she has made a smarter choice. So, thematically, there are very clear similarities, but most of all, I would say that the big similarity is telling a good story about somebody who grows and does the right thing without being boring or without being a caricature to start with. So, when I first read Be Prepared, I was like, yeah, but Anya's Ghost is better. I'm not sure anymore. They're both excellent books and warmly recommended.
And this one is about younger children than Anya's Ghost as well.
Yeah.
So it's not for younger children, but it's about younger children.
Yeah. Anya's Ghost got Harvey and Eisner Awards for publications for young adults or younger readers, but they're eminently readable for grown-ups as well. But excellent role models for young people, I would say.
Yeah, good stuff.
Thank you.
So I'm going to talk about a book that has some similarities with the books that Jan talked about. American Born Chinese by Jean Luen Yang. Sorry. This was published in 2006 originally, and then has come out in several different editions since. It's been a really successful book. This is different from Anya's Ghost because it doesn't have as straightforward a story. It takes place over longer time and it involves several different storylines. It has three parallel storylines. One is the story about young Jin and his friends, Wei Chen and Susan and Allison, perhaps. What's his girlfriend's name? Or his
I'm so happy that you asked that question.
I can't remember now what the name was. But then parallel with that, there's the story about the Monkey King, the Chinese legend, the myth or saga or what we should call it, about the fairy tale about the Monkey King. And parallel with that, there's the story about the all-American teen Danny, who's inexplicably Chinese cousin comes to visit him.
Hmm.
And that is told in the form of a sitcom with a laugh track and everything. The story about the Monkey King, or we can start with Jin's story, which is, I would say, the sort of framework story for this entire book. Jin moves to a new school in the US with his Chinese parents, and he has trouble fitting in. The first panel we see of Jin, he has this little. He's sitting there very sad in the car as they are moving with his little transformer toy, because he likes the Transformers. And he spends a lot of time thinking about that, being able to change into somebody else and being genuinely unhappy with his identity for a number of reasons. And this book doesn't talk so much about racism and racists as evil, but more about the sort of cultural arrogance, let's say.
Yeah.
Like how...
And bias.
Yes, bias, but the arrogance when when his teachers don't really bother learning his name, for example. Just mix up the syllables. And incidents like that, nobody's doing it to be cruel, but there's a cruelty involved in it. There's or an arrogance. It's a disregard for him. So there's that.
And also stupid bullies.
Of course, yes. The obvious, quite funny actually. Some of the bullying scenes that have been there, extremely cruel. He makes friends with a boy named Peter, who everybody calls Peter the Eater because he likes to eat his own snot. And their friendship is based entirely on Peter being allowed to do whatever he wants to Jin. That's what it is. But eventually, Peter is sent to a different school, so he gets rid of him.
But it's like, I'm not going to beat you up if you let me harass you as friends. No. So it's slightly better.
It's a little bit better, but Peter also never asks. Do you think this is okay? Do you think it's fun?
It's fully exploitative.
Completely, and it's very amusingly described. Eventually, Wei Chen arrives to the class, and he is much more obviously foreign than Jin is. So Jin feels slightly superior to him. On the other hand, they actually do become friends.
After a while.
After a short while. Genuine friends. But after a while, and it's not like the previous relationship, it's not a very equal relationship in some ways. You know, and I think Jin maybe doesn't see his Chinese friend as...
He doesn't want to be dragged down. No. Now that he's sort of accepted, he doesn't want to get dragged back into being that other identity.
He doesn't want to be too associated with it.
No,
exactly.
Not with a fob. Fresh off the boat.
Fresh off the boat, and that's where they use that. Jin says that to Wei Chen, that don't be such an FOB. That's fresh off the boat. Parallel to that, we have the story about Danny, whose Chinese cousin comes to visit him regularly. And that Chinese cousin is called Chinky, and he is drawn to embody every negative stereotype about Chinese people that an American can think of, basically. And this is told in the form of a sitcom, so Chinky comes there and makes trouble for Danny all along. That's the basic plot for that.
With the audience laughing every time.
There's applause and a laugh track there. So when Chinky shows up screaming, "Hello America," there's a laugh and a clap track there. So everybody knows that the audience thinks this is really funny. And then, of course, parallel with this is the story of the Monkey King, who crashes a party that the gods have. but he's thrown out because he's a monkey.
Yeah.
And monkeys aren't allowed.
Yeah.
And
even though he's mastered kung fu and everything.
Even though he is supremely skilled, actually, in everything, he's not allowed because he's a monkey. And that's the only reason. So he goes back there and beats them up, all of the gods. He beats all of the gods and then goes back to his very lonely monkey mountain. Eventually, the Monkey King is trapped beneath a pile of rocks. It's a long, complicated story how he ends up there, but that's how he ends up.
Yeah, he's being sort of psychopathic as a reaction to his rejection, and the high god has to hold him down.
Yes, exactly. He tries to rebel against the highest god, and that's how he ends up there, trapped underneath a pile of rocks. Eventually, the solution to that problem is, of course, and he's being persuaded of that by a monk that he wants to help, to simply shrink back to his original monkey shape, because he has transformed himself into a form that looks more human and more forceful. But by shrinking back into his monkey persona, he can escape this pile of rocks easily. So that's the solution in his story. In real life, parallel to this, the solutions come less easily, of course, and especially when Jin grows a little bit older and falls in love with Amelia, is her name, of course. Amelia, that's her name, who actually loves him back, or likes him back, at least. They are young. And Wei Chen has found a girlfriend in the Japanese girl Susie Takamura. Parallel. So they are both doing quite well, and they also have a functioning friendship going. However, Jin's insecurity and which is made much worse by a classmate telling him that he should stop seeing Amelia because it's bad for her. It's bad. One of his blonde, good-looking classmates tells him that it's bad for Amelia to be seen with Jin, even though he's a nice guy. Jin is a good guy, but he should consider her.
Again with the arrogance.
Yes, complete arrogance. And his classmate explains this to him to do both him and Amelia a favor, and ends it by saying, "No hard feelings." And Jin says, "Yeah." So that of course that upsets Jin quite a lot, and he ends up kissing Susan Takamura in a fit of stupidity.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to describe that. Which ruins his friendship with her and with Wei Chen, and presumably any chances he might have had otherwise with Amelia as well. And it doesn't feel good about this. This is a recurrent image in this book. Jin lying in bed thinking about what the day has been like and what tomorrow might be like. And Jin Lun Yang is very good at showing in these simple images quite a lot of what the characters feel. He does that very well. And this night Jin dreams about the herbalist's wife. And that dream about the herbalist wife is pivotal here. And I'm not going to quite spoil how this is all tied together. But the end of the book parallels that of the story of the Monkey King, in that what Jin is forced to do and what Wei Chen is forced to do as well is to sort of reconcile with who they are, not try so hard at being something else, because trying that means that you lose something as well. And it's I find it extremely neatly done, and I recommend this book extremely warmly. It's very, very good. Luen Young has written a number of other books. This is his most recent book called Dragon Hoops, came out in 2020. And in many ways this is an even more accomplished book and a bigger achievement.
Very ambitious.
Extremely. And successfully too, because it kept me interested in basketball for nearly 500 pages, which I would have said is just impossible before I read it, but it really did. Drawn in a very similar style, cartoony, simple style, but quite evocative, good with characters, keeping characters as individual with very simple means. So both of these books, Luen Young, warmly recommended. He has also written series for DC Comics with slightly more uneven result, I would say. But these books are absolutely fantastic. Love them both. They are both published by Second.
First Second.
Yes, that's the name of the publisher. First Second. So really good stuff.
Yeah. All right, we'll wind this down first. She is actually named Vera here.
She was, all right.
You're the name guy.
Well,
I actually like to draw a parallel here. We have a lot of stuff about being outsiders in these stories, and I got to think about another Asian American comics creator, Agent Tomina.
Yeah.
And an all-American comic creator named Steve Gerber, who also he didn't have the outsider feeling because he had different ethnic roots than his, but because he had, well, let's say a different kind of personality than people around him. And
he looked at things slightly differently.
He certainly did. His most famous creation is probably Howard the Duck, which is all about being an outsider.
Feeling like an alien.
And it can make for very good stories if it's done the right way.
Sure. And it's something most of us can relate to, if not all the time. At least there's been at some point times where you felt like that. So it's extremely relatable to. Even Howard the Duck is very relatable.
Yes, it's no wonder that all the most successful Disney movies are about being an outsider,
right,
finding yourself and learning to be yourself.
Right.
Anyway, thanks for watching. Sorry about the accents, but you'll have to live with it.
We have to.
Feel free to recommend us to our friends if you liked it. If you didn't like it, recommend us to your enemies, and hope they'll feel bad about it.
That's right.
That's basically it. Next episode, we're back to Swedish. Sorry guys. Bye.
Bye-bye.